Welcome to the Make and Design podcast. I'm your host, Carina Gardner, and today I want to talk about how you can become a graphic designer and work from home. Now, I've been doing this for about 17 and a half years now, and I've been a graphic designer. I have worked from home. In fact, it was the main reason that I became a graphic designer is because I had the ability to work from home. I have 3 kids, and during this time, I was the stay-at-home parent, and I made we'll say double or more than what my attorney husband was making. And I was doing this all from home. And we live in an interesting time where so many people want to work remote now. And maybe that's you. Maybe you're thinking about it and you're like, I would love to work remote. I have kids at home. Or maybe you're like on the other end of things and you're ready for your encore career. And going into an office just sounds like, oh, crap. Like, I do not want to do that. So this is the episode for you because this is going to help you kind of understand the 2 methods for you to go about doing this. And there really are 2 methods at this point. And actually, we do both of these methods at Carina Gardner, Inc. Well, I shouldn't say at Carina Gardner, Inc., but kind of. We do both of these methods because I have found benefits from both. And the first method is the one that everybody knows about. It's the main way that people go become graphic designers, and they go get a degree. Okay. So that's how I got started. Many of you guys know my undergraduate is not in graphic design. It's actually in communications. And my master's degree and my Ph.D. are both in design. And it was kind of an accidental route of me getting on that path. But the bottom line is it made me realize that people could start a graphic design degree at the master's level with the right types of things, which allowed us to create the University of Arts and Design, which is a master's degree in design business. And so whether you go to my school or you go to any school out there, to me, like going and getting an official degree will give you the best overall knowledge. That is a great way to become a graphic designer. Now, the working from home part, we're going to talk about at the end here. So first of all, we're going to talk about the methods for the graphic design part, because unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, a graphic design is not something that is just like, poof, you can start making money right away. It's no big deal. And the reason is because there's a certain skill set that has to be learned. The first skill set is software. And this, before 1990, 1985, when really we became graphic designers versus commercial artists. Before that, people learned how to screen print, do lithography. Like there was like all these different methods that they were learning by hand to become what we now call a graphic designer. Now those skill sets are all transferred onto the computer. So we have to know Adobe products. We have to know how to use Illustrator, Photoshop, in many cases InDesign. And by knowing that software and being able to work in that software, we're able to produce whatever artwork our clients need. Okay. So there's that level. Then there's the second level, which is the actual, how do I say this? Like the ability to see and verbalize as a graphic designer. So this is what we call having a great eye. Many of you already have a great eye, especially if you're listening to this. You've had people, clients, friends, family say, oh my gosh, you make the most beautiful stuff. You should sell that, right? A lot of people will hear, you will hear that about those types of people, and you might be one of those. And because of that, you already have a really great eye. Usually those types of people don't know all the rules of design. There are definitely subjective rules, but there are actually a lot of objective rules that you do need to learn. That's really helpful in graphic design school. And on top of that, the vocabulary so that you yourself can be able to talk to clients, be able to talk to creative directors so that they understand what you're trying to produce. And this is really key because a lot of times I see people who will be like, oh, I want to get a licensing deal like for a fabric contract, but they truly do not have the vocabulary to speak to a creative designer or a creative director so that they understand, why they made what they did. And that's really important. Okay. So if you've ever been looking for a licensing contract in particular, you have struggled to get one, it might be because of this one little thing right here. Okay, so that's a little nugget for you. All right, so first method is go back to school. You can go back to your community college. You can go to a very expensive school. Some of my favorite schools out there are ridiculously expensive to go get a bachelor's or a master's degree. Our school is very inexpensive. We've tried to put the cost level down at the lowest level for a master's degree, starting anywhere from about $21,000 up to about $35,000, depending on which degree you're getting. I will say the average degree out there is $40,000. The best schools out there run about $150,000 for a master's degree or so. So we've seen the gamut of all the different things. So there's the coolest thing. And sometimes people ask me, well, do I have to have a bachelor's degree in graphic design? You do not for our school. For other schools, you may. But our school, we have some prerequisites you can take so that you can then just immediately jump into a master's degree. I always say, what's the point of doing a second bachelor's degree when you can get a master's degree? It's a much better degree to have, in my opinion. Okay, so that's the first method. You can go back to school. Some of you might be like, going back to school, not something I want to do, Carina. Is there another way? The answer is yes. And this is the thing we started a few years ago called Design Suite. And you can do this not just in Design Suite, you can do it by basically building your own curriculum, right? Of taking courses out there in the online space from people who are authorities or experts. We know a lot of people who will go take a surface pattern design class or a stationery class or a SVG class, right? So you're taking all of these little classes and kind of sort of piecing together your own, I was going to say like not real degree, because it's not a degree, because you're getting it from, people who are telling you that they know what they are doing, but they're not qualified. So you're just getting information, right? You can also take online classes out there for Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign. Adobe has a few different things. So you basically can piecemeal all of these different things together. We were seeing this in the marketplace, and I personally was like, oh, this is terrible, because if you just learn surface pattern design, it's like maybe taking half a semester course at a university, right? And you're not getting all the skills. You're also not getting all the design knowledge or vocabulary. And so we started a program called Design Suite. And that's kind of how we take care of it. What it is basically a non-degree granting program that teaches you how to be a graphic designer. Okay. And you can piece this together yourself. Usually will cost you anywhere in the range of, depending on the cost of the products, you can buy a $2,000 class here or there, a $5,000 class here or there, and you'll end up spending, who knows, like between $15,000 and $30,000. It's like insane how much I've seen people spend because they're piecing together all of these little courses, spending $700 here and $1,000 here and so forth. What I would suggest to you in this case, all right, if you're doing it this way, is that you do your research and you spend some time really thinking about what you're trying to accomplish. A lot of these will teach you what we call basic Adobe Illustrator skills. They're not teaching you usually any business, or maybe they're teaching you to go license, which is pretty difficult at this point. Most people know, and if you're new to this podcast, you ought to know that I do not promote my designers to go get licensing contracts, at least not at the beginning. And it's because they're almost impossible. And I feel like they're a little bit of a pipe dream that all of these, teachers or gurus out there are teaching. And they're saying, oh, you can get a licensing contract. And in at least 2025, that is really like very minimal. Like it's a 1 in 100 chance if you're lucky. And so we like to teach steady income. We like to teach our designers to make steady income where they can work from home or work anywhere. And so we do everything in a more all-encompassing program that really mimics our degree program. And because of that, that is another way that you can become a graphic designer. It's through a program like Design Suite, or if you want to like piecemeal it all together by taking an Illustrator class here, finding a business class or a marketing class here or there, and you can kind of figure it all out yourself. And that's not a bad way to do it. Sometimes that's a better pace for people depending on your stage in life. And so it's not a bad thing. If you like kind of an all-encompassing thing, something that like will go all together, we have Design Suite, and you can go check that out by joining us in a design bootcamp at designsuitecourses.com/design bootcamp. So that's another way you can learn how to do it. Okay, let's talk about the work from home part. Now, this is the part that is fascinating to me. We are going through a really interesting stage where suddenly work from home became an option for everyone during COVID in 2020. And once some of us got a taste of that, we were like, we never want to go back, right? It became an option that most people didn't realize was an option. Now, I had been doing this everything from home for the last 17 years. So like for me, nothing changed. I was like, I'm still working at home, especially during COVID, I'm still with my kids and my family, and I'm still working from home. The only problem was now my kids were home from school as well. And, I was just trying to navigate around them, which is a little bit crazy, but it worked. So if you're like, I don't want to go back to work in an office, and most places are going back to work in their offices. There's a lot of reasons for this, and that is because the general worker is not as motivated to get their work done. And I think they were seeing that in a few different ways. I also get very frustrated because, especially those of you listening to this, most of you are very motivated and you can get far more work done at home than you can in an office, right? That's why you're seeking other avenues for income. It's because you know that you're willing to put in the work effort to get things done. Okay, so the work from home, that really can happen a lot of different ways, but the main way is you got to build your own business, right? I hate putting it like that because people are always like, I just want to become a designer. At the end of the day, when you become a designer, and I didn't know I was doing this when I started being a designer and working from home, but this is essentially what I was doing. I was building my own business. Now, this is really interesting because once you put designers in this business portion, you start to be like, oh, wait, there are all these things we have to learn as designers that we don't learn in design school, right? In design school, we're learning skills. We are learning how to create beautiful pieces, how to build beautiful brands, how to create logos, how to create marketing materials, how to create magazines. Like, we're making all this beautiful stuff, how to design websites. There's all these wonderful things that we're able to do. Now, when we go to the working at home part, though, it's suddenly like, okay, I can design websites for people, but that means I have to go get clients. Getting clients is a business skill. So that's why I always tell people, like, when you're piecing this thing together, and once again, that we do this both at our university and we do it in Design Suite, what we're trying to do is piece together that business and that design component because we just saw it missing in the market. But you can actually learn how to do this separately. I had to do this, right? So my undergraduate degree is in communications, my master's degree is in design, my Ph.D. is in design, and no one taught me any business. I do have a minor in business from my bachelor's degree, but it was accounting and how to do statistics and that kind of thing. So it didn't really help me with like the actual everyday in and out of how do I get people to buy my stuff, right? How do I get people to, use the products that I'm designing? No one taught me any of that. So what did I do? I signed up for a course. I piecemealed it together, okay? And that's what I did. I actually ended up buying a course that taught me marketing. It was, I think it was, the first set of it was $5,500. So $5,500. They upgraded into their mastermind, which is about $30,000. And that's why people they're all like, oh, they think that the information is free out there. And I always tell everyone it took me a long time. I had to pay for a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD. And I'm not going to tell you how much that was, but it was expensive. I went to the University of Minnesota for my master's and my PhD. And then out of school, I had to go get business skills. And I had to make a choice. Do I go get an MBA or do I learn from someone online? And I decided for that piece, because I had already had so many graduate school degrees, to go learn from someone online. I spent the first year of it, you guys, I spent $35,000 basically in order to make it work. Now you might be like, whoa, that's so much. But here's the thing, you guys, as you are growing and you're learning, as you're becoming a designer, you will see that everything you do should pay you back and have a huge return on investment. So the first $5,500 I spent on learning how to do the business, within 6 weeks, I had made $18,000. Like I had tripled my return on investment. And that's how I know that like I'm doing the right things, is if I get that investment back, right? And so I did freelance work to pay off some of my Ph.D. I did online platforms where I did some different things. I became a creative director along the way, and that paid back for some of my schooling. But I'm always looking for what's my return on investment. And it does take a hot second to get this all together to work from home. But what you need to do is you need to learn how to build the business portion, okay? The business portion, all it is learning how to attract clients. That's all it is, okay? Lots of different ways to do that, right? And I will make sure that I'm talking a little bit more about this in future episodes, about this working from home and this business piece, because it's really an important piece. So how do we really become a graphic designer? I told you there's one of two ways. We actually go back to school, or we join a program like Design Suites that gives you both, or that we piecemeal it together by going and finding classes that we really love online, figuring out what's going to work best for us, and kind of piecing it together in that way. Okay. I clearly have done both. That's why I'm telling you guys about it, because I've done both. I paid for an amazing amount of school. Okay. And then I had to piecemeal all the business stuff. Okay. And then finally, this work from home portion means that we have to not just prioritize learning how to make products. And especially those of you who are already graphic designers, you already know how to do that. You're like, what's the piece so I can work from home? What's the piece so I can make sure that, I can work from anywhere in the world, from an RV, from Europe, from wherever we are, right? That is learning how to run a business. And now that I have been doing this for about 17 years now, and I ran my business as a solo entrepreneur for many, many years, okay, where it was just me designing. I was designing for companies. I was designing for online platforms. I was doing freelance work. So I was doing a little bit of everything. I will say that I really opened myself up to lots of opportunities by networks. I go into the 4 ways that you can learn how to make money in our design bootcamp. So if you want to learn more about that, it's at designsuitecourses.com/designbootcamp. So you can learn about that there. And it has been a really amazing roller coaster. And I say that in a great way because I love roller coasters. I recently got home from a trip I did with my senior. We went and did a couple of theme parks in the Netherlands, one in Germany. And we love a good roller coaster, because a good roller coaster, while it will turn you and it will flip you upside down, it's also an amazing ride. It's a joyous ride. And that's really what becoming a graphic designer is all about. It's about this joyous ride where we're trying to figure out all the best ways that's going to work for us. And I will say this, that every graphic designer really is different. You are going to think about your career, think about the way you build it, totally different from someone else. There are some people who turn into freelancers. There's some people who end up in corporate and really loving working for corporate. There's some people who end up as contract. So they're working with a couple of different companies and they're doing contracts with them. That's a really beautiful thing. We have a couple of coaches who do that on our team. Or maybe you turn to online platforms and you're making it that way. The truth is, there's no one way to make good money as a graphic designer or to figure out how to work from home. However, there are lots of ways that you can learn about it so that you can make the right action steps. And we talk about those things in our design programs, both at the university and in our Design Suite programs. If you want to learn more about the university, you can go to UAD. That's UAD, so University Arts and Design, uad.education, the full word, and you can go learn more about our programs there and maybe even join us for one of our events. If you're learning or wanting to learn about Design Suite, you must come to a design boot camp. We teach you for 5 days, and we want to make sure that you understand the best practices for becoming a graphic designer. And so that's why we have everyone apply and come to a design boot camp. It's usually about $27. So it's 5 days of amazing information. Lots of people will take that information, just work from there. And that's at designsuitecourses.com/designbootcamp. Hopefully that was helpful. Can't wait to see you become a graphic designer, build out an amazing career for yourself, and we'll talk soon. Want to hang out more? Go to designsuitecourses.com/free to get our weekly freebies and patterns, die cut files, and more. Can't wait to see you there.